Making money on Airbnb doesn't have to be as complicated as you may think. But if you don't know what you're doing and you're just shooting blindfolded, you guys may end up losing money every single month. So as somebody who's invested in 7 rentals and I've taught over 1,000 people how to do this successfully, this is the exact process that I use and what I would recommend when you guys are first researching a market and trying to narrow down what type of market, where to invest in with that market, and ultimately what type of property to buy. If you follow these steps, honestly, you can eliminate so much potential disaster by buying a property blindfolded and just hoping that it cash flows. Because there is a very detailed process and data that you guys can take advantage of at your fingertips to make a better investment decision. So whether you're doing rental arbitrage or you're buying a property, the same systems apply. Today we're going to analyze Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's one of the markets that I recently invested in, so I'm quite familiar with it, but I'm going to show you guys how I actually zoned in on the specific subset of this market and the reason we bought the properties that we did. Now, the first thing I'm going to recommend you do on any market is look up the regulation. Before you get down the weeds of where to invest in the market and start analyzing dozens of properties, you need to make sure that you're able to do short-term rentals legally there. So there's typically 2 types of permits that most cities have, and there's oftentimes information on the website. Owner-occupied permit, basically just meaning you live in the unit, or maybe you live in a duplex or triplex and you rent out the other units. Or non-owner occupied, meaning it's purely for investment purposes and you do not live on site. It's not your homestead. So honestly, a lot of people ask me, how do I know the regulation? Or I heard the regulation's really stiff in Fort Lauderdale or Nashville or wherever it is. What I recommend doing, type in city name, vacation rental permit. On Google, the Google machine is going to show you exactly what you need to see. Cities have gotten a lot better over the years, so I'm just going to show you Fort Lauderdale's process. It's very detailed, and it seems overwhelming at first, but guys, just read through the information and just create a checklist and make sure you follow it, and you should have no problems. Fort Lauderdale tends to actually be a little bit more investor friendly than a lot of other cities, so I'm not going to bore you with the details on this specific market, but just know that you need to look up that information before getting in the weeds on market analysis itself. Next thing I'm going to recommend you do is leverage data in the marketplace. There's several websites out there that congregate all of this information and sift through all of the listings across the entire world on Airbnb and Verbo and put it for you on a silver platter. So AirDNA is probably the market leader, and it's the tool that I personally use the most. Just know that there are other options out there, but this is the one I'm going to show you today. So what I do first when I look at any market, this might be backwards for some people. I don't look at the overview. I don't look at the occupancy, the rates, the revenue. What I look at is the top property section. The reason I look at this first is because the top property section is going to tell me what the market potential is for different filters, right? Different zip codes, different bedroom sizes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedroom properties. And it's going to tell me some other things here as well. But the biggest thing I'm going to look for out of the gate is where these properties are clustered on a map. You're going to notice here in Fort Lauderdale, if you hover over, you're going to see the dots pop up on the right. They're all located along the coast. Not super surprising, but just know that if you're looking first at the occupancy and rates tabs and you're like, oh my gosh, if I get a 3-bedroom property that has a Fort Lauderdale address, I'm going to do amazing. That may not be the case, because if it's not in the right subsection of that market, you may fall flat on your face. Each zip code or neighborhood can produce very different results. So now that we know we're going to have to be on the east side of town here, what we're going to do is look over, and I notice that if I can be definitely on the east side of this Highway 1 here and potentially on the east side of this canal, then I'm going to have a great opportunity for success. So what I'm going to do next, most of us probably aren't going to have the budget for a 7 or 8 bedroom mansion right on the water. So we're going to utilize these filters. What I recommend doing, if you're looking at a 3 or 4 bedroom property, look at these filters and see what the market potential is for each size property. Now, in addition to location, what I'm going to want to do is notice trends that I see between these properties. Trends in location, trends in if they have a view, do they have a hot tub, do they have a pool, do they have a giant backyard, what are these people providing their guests? And you're going to start to make a checklist or a spreadsheet. Okay, so if I'm looking at 4-bedroom properties in Fort Lauderdale, I know I want a pool. I know I want it to be heated pool, and I'm probably going to want a really great outdoor space. You're going to notice every single top property photo is of the pool area. And also notice that a lot of them are also located on water or a canal. So if I can find a property that has a heated pool or a pool that I can add a heater to it and it's on water and a big outdoor space, that is going to present the biggest opportunity or biggest upside for me as an investor. So when I go to a realtor, I'm going to say, hey, these are the exact criteria I'm looking for. I want you to feed me properties that fit this exact criteria. The other caveat is if you are in a market that has steeper regulation, basically think of like Nashville. They have very strict zoning regulation. They're still investor friendly, but only in certain pockets of the market. So work with a realtor that understands those zoning laws, and you give them the criteria, and what they can do is go hunt for properties on the MLS or maybe off market and then give them to you and say, hey, I've already vetted these. They're all short-term rental eligible. They meet your criteria. And then what you do is dive in deeper into the data. So now that we know what section of the market to invest in, and then what size property, what features we want, we can start looking at some of the other information on AirDNA. And this is where you're going to want to start to use filters based on zip code. So I have a property here, and I'm pretty sure the zip code is 33308, which is, okay, this is down in Fort Lauderdale, Broward County. So you're going to notice here the data is going to be very different for each of these zip codes. So this is where we want to start the changes, because when you're crafting a forecast and trying to figure out how much cash flow you're going to make, what is your ROI going to be like, you have to make sure you're using the right data. So what I'm going to come in here and do is use all of the filters. Number of bedrooms, you can do different tiers for if you think it's a budget economy, mid-scale, upscale property. And then you can also do other filters such as the ratings they have on Airbnb, the number of guests you can accommodate, the number of bathrooms. I usually just look at the bedrooms out of the gate for occupancy rate. So this is the complete middle of the road. It's the average. You're going to notice the occupancy here, generally speaking, is right around that 60 to 65% range. So based on that data, you're going to know the better performing properties are doing above that, and some of the worst properties are going to be doing less than that. And then we can look at the rates tab, and you're going to see the complete, just middle of the road average daily rate for 4-bedroom properties in this zip code. Now down here is where you can get a little more granular, because your property may not be considered a luxury property. So don't just assume that you can be charging over $1,000 a night on average. Maybe you're a mid-scale property. It's a big difference, $594 versus 1.3K per night. And you can look at the trailing data. Now keep in mind, the historical data on AirDNA includes revenue from your cleaning fees. So usually I'll come off this revenue by about 10 or 15%, because personally I don't forecast cleaning fees because we charge the guests the cleaning fee, so I consider it a wash. So we're looking at this data. Now we have the location of the market. We have historical data for occupancy and rates. You can also look at revenue tabs. And one thing I'm going to mention on this revenue tab, you can actually look at the revenue growth. Right here, the total market revenue. You can download this report, and then what you can also do is look at the total number of rentals in the market on the overview page. And what you can do is you can look at the year-over-year growth as a percentage on how many active rentals have increased over the past year or 3 years in relation to the revenue increase. And a good friend of mine, or buddy, John Bianchi, who's a amazing data analytics guy for short-term rental, showed me this trick. If you export those two pieces of information, you can see, hey, is the revenue growth in that market or that zip code increasing at the same rate as the supply growth? If it's not, it's going to start to shrink your profits a little bit. So that's a good trick to look into. And the other thing you can do here is look at the different percentiles, right? The 90th percentile means they're among the top 10% of that market, and they're doing essentially the best. Now, one way you can look at future looking information, right, because you don't want to just look at historical info, because that's not always going to be a perfect indicator of what's going to happen in the future. First thing I want to do is look at the pacing tab on AirDNA. This is just going to show us all of the listings available, and then what the median price was of booked properties for any given day in the future, and then what the median price is for the available properties. Now, what I want to do from here is, once you have a certain property or a couple properties that you're evaluating, don't just rely on the broad market data on AirDNA or Airbnb or whatever other tool you're going to use. And what you want to do is go to the source directly. Go to Airbnb, go to Verbo, and if I was looking, for example, let's look on Airbnb. If I'm going to look on Fort Lauderdale, and I have a 4-bedroom property, so I know I'm going to sleep at least 8 guests. I'm going to search here, and what I want to do is zoom in get really granular on the location. So let's say I'm looking right here in the Coral Ridge area, just, for example, has popped up. And I know I'm not beachfront, so I need to eliminate that. Let me look even closer, like right here. What I want to do is find 3 to 5 properties that I think I consistently will compete directly with. So similar amenities, similar backyard, pool, whatever they have, similar style, accommodate the same number of guests. And what I'm going to do, let's say this is a direct comp to me. I want to come in here and pick apart their calendar and see, okay, well, what are they charging on the weekends? What's their minimum night stay like? What are they charging midweek? And you can see the difference. You can see, if it's properly managed or not. And this will help formulate your forecast and confirm, hey, I think I can get this amount per night, and I'm going to be booked about this many days per year. So that is how to get super granular in your market analysis and research. The most important thing you can do in any market is just figure out where the top properties are, where they're located, what amenities they have, what do they provide guests. And there's a reason why people are already paying that much more and booking those properties more frequently. You don't have to break, or you don't have to fix what's not broken, right? Just mimic what the other top properties are doing. The data is there for you to consume and replicate. The last thing I'll mention, if you want to have or become a top performing property in your market, don't just copy and take what other good properties have and good hosts are doing, but put your own unique spin on it. Try to create something unique about yours to jump off the page. Remember, we live in a digital world, and you have to earn that first click before you ever even earn the opportunity for somebody to book your place. And that's it, guys. Hopefully you found this super helpful. Honestly, don't overcomplicate it. It's a lot simpler than you probably think it is. And if you guys want more information on how to do not just this, but do in-depth property analysis, investment analysis, and how to actually set up the properties for success and manage them professionally and squeeze out every little bit of cash flow you possibly can, I'm going to drop some information below on BNB Investor Academy. We've taught over 1,000 people the same blueprint that's helped me be super successful in this space, and I think it can help you guys as well. So there's more information in the description below. If you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe and like this video if you found some value in it, and I hope to see you guys again soon.